Welcome back to the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. Today, talk about some of the latest rumblings and happenings with the NFL before the draft starts. There's been some speculation that is usually fairly accurate, and then there was a blockbuster trade and extension we'll talk about. But first, I think one of the greatest things happened, at least for us fans, for this NFL draft. They lessened the time between picks to 8 minutes. I don't know about you, but I love that because the anticipation is awesome when you're seeing that clock count down. But man, I don't know, 10 minutes just seemed like it was too long. It just seemed like they know what guy they're going to pick already. They're just kind of letting that clock drain out to see if maybe they get that crazy trade offer. But everyone already knows what's going on as far as the war room. So let's just come on. Let's go to the next pick. Let's get it moving. So I love that they're going to 8 minutes outside of 10. I think that's a great decision.
Yeah, I think it'll be really nice to be able to have a more sped up draft. The part that's just funny to me is like I don't understand why you wouldn't make the first pick like 3 minutes. Everyone
Just
knows.
start at two. Start at two and go on.
Or why not just make them submit their pick before the night of the draft?
There you go, because you already know what you're going to do, or you already know you're going to trade it if there's already a deal in place. So, yeah, yeah, that's just silly for that first pick to start with that 8 minute countdown or 10 minute countdown, whatever it used to be. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Um, but something that officially happened. So, not this is not speculation. This is a transaction that is done. Dexter Lawrence, one of the best defensive tackles in this league, is now a Bengal. And you might ask, oh, did they trade a second round pick and some change? No, 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 no. They traded the 10th overall pick for him, which I don't know. That seems kind of expensive to me because he was coming off a down year. He didn't want to be there. So the Giants had no leverage in that, where he probably wasn't going to show up at training camp and he was already not there for the OTAs because it's new head coach. They get to start early. Um, and it was just going to be a drama-filled offseason because he wants more money and he's getting paid. He's not getting paid great money for defensive tackles right now. So I understand that, but he's still getting paid good enough to where you don't really want to make that contract even bigger when he's already signed on the dotted line. So it was going to be a difficult situation. And so a trade was almost inevitable in a way. And to get the 10th overall pick, I mean, if you got a first round pick, I'm like, all right, maybe you got like the 24th pick or something like that. Like maybe the Bills are trying to just get that last piece. And if the Bills get Dexter Lawrence, then their defense is going to be legit. Josh Allen has a chance at a Super Bowl. I'd get that. Get that 25th, 26th overall pick. That would make some sense. I still might view that as a little bit too expensive because he's got to turn 29 and defensive tackle is
Wait,
valuable, but
so can I ask you a
go
question?
ahead. Yes.
Why do you view this trade different than the Quinn and Williams trade? Because when the Quinn and Williams trade came out, you defended it, and they're pretty close to the same age. Like we're not talking about drastic difference.
I think the difference was one of the main differences is Quentin Williams wasn't asking out. He was
Mm.
perfectly fine, and he was still on his rookie contract, I believe. Or did it just get extended?
He got
I don't
extended.
remember how the he got extended. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
Quinn
they
Williams is
already did the
28.
extension.
He's 28 and he's going to turn 29.
Still, though, he was not causing that drama. And what was that trade for? Was it a
A second.
first and second?
Yeah. It wasn't a cheap trade.
But that was still probably a little bit later in the draft for the first and second.
I think
It was
here's
the
the thing.
Cowboys, right?
Here's the part I feel like that you underestimate, and I think the Giants are going to get trapped in. It's
Hmm.
awesome to get one really nice pick. It's way better to get one or two more picks, like as far as two picks or more, so that way you
Maybe they trade
ensure.
down.
But that's the problem is that it requires the Giants to think thoughtfully about trades, and I don't like that because sure, Shane has not shown he can be capable
Fair.
of being smart with his draft assets. So it makes me nervous. I would rather take the Miami Dolphins Jalen Waddle trade was a great trade, a first, third, and fourth. Like you have three
Hmm.
chances to redeem yourself and really maximize your value. So I get what you're saying. I do understand that the part where I feel like that the Bengals lost the trade was a 1 year extension at 28 million. That to me is just a
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't, yeah, I didn't even get to that part yet. That was insane. Um, this whole thing is just to show Joe Burrow, hey, we mean business. We're serious. Please stay. Don't ask out because all last year there was all that weird conversations he was having that was just kind of pointing to he didn't like it there anymore. So the Bengals were desperate. Um, Black and white, does this help their team be better? Yes. They're a better team now than they were before the trade. But that 10th overall pick, you could have got a really good difference maker that is young on a rookie scale contract, as opposed to going out and getting a really good player. Dexter Lawrence is awesome, but he's expensive. You just made him more expensive, and he might have 3-ish years left of good to elite play. I mean, I don't know. I think that they paid way too much. And now the Giants, I'm not saying they're going to do a lot this year, but if they do select at 5 and 10 and don't trade down and get two really good young players, watch out in like 2 to 3 years when Jackson Dart gets more experience, Malik Neighbors gets more experience, he's healthy, Cam Scadaboo, and they get two really high picks in this draft, which this draft is fine. The top 10 is really good, and they have two picks in the top 10. This is looking pretty decent for the Giants in their future, not the immediate, but in their future down the line, they could make some noise. And for the Bengals, they got better. They'll compete in that division between them, the Ravens. I don't think the Steelers or the Browns are going to be any kind of worry, but it's going to be a fight between the Bengals and the Ravens if both teams can stay healthy. Like
well,
if, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but I mean, the Linderbaum trade or signing by the Raiders makes this trade, I think, a little more intriguing because it's gonna be a big problem for the Ravens. And
Yeah.
um the Ravens have a big hill ahead of them. I think that the new head coach they hired is great. I just think that the vibes are off in
Hmm.
Baltimore right now. I'm not saying the vibes
I
are
kind of
on
agree.
in the Bengal land right now. I just think
Hmm.
here's my point is I think people are overhyping how much they love the Giants trade and not under, but maybe over attacking, over emphasizing how bad of a trade it was by the Bengals. I'm not saying it was a great trade. I just look at it differently. Like
Mm.
if you look at the board right now, and even Daniel Jeremiah talked about this, and you can already see this is not going to go the way we want to. This is not going to go the way we want it to go. Then you put yourself already in a spot where you might take less than desirable draft value. So rather than risk that, you make a trade where you trade one pick, just one, and it is painful
Mhm.
because it's a high pick, and I understand that and I appreciate it, but it's just one pick, and then you get someone. I don't mind the thought process. The part I'm mad about, the part that I think is dumb is I understand what you're saying about 3 years left. I don't care. I still want that fourth year. I want to be able to determine where Dexter Lawrence goes to. I want to be able to turn
Mhm.
around and trade him again, not put myself in a position where I'm doing the Trey Hendrickson dance in 3 years from now. That's where I think the
Mhm.
trade is a real failure. You don't just get that player for one more year. It, I mean, and I'm surprised they couldn't. Here's another thing too, is that, maybe you say, like a Stephon Diggs trade, like even if it's a fifth round pick coming back, it's something to help soften the blow of the loss. Maybe it's a fifth round pick next year. But
Mhm.
sometimes I think that teams kind of go with a Chip Kelly approach. Well, we just want to get the player. It doesn't matter. We're just going to do whatever we have to do to get them. Well, I just want to
Mhm.
get Kiko Alonso, take LaShawn McCoy. I'm not going to get any draft picks in return. Or I really want Sam Bradford. I'm giving up Nick Foles in a second round pick. And I think that's kind of like what happened in the trade. It's not a bad trade. I just feel like it could have been better. That's how I would phrase the trade. I feel like it could have been better. I wouldn't give it like an F. I think people are giving it an F mentality, and I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I might go like C minus,
I would
something like
probably
that.
say like C plus, B minus territories where I would put it. But I
I wouldn't
do.
give it a positive grade. I think giving it a B is a positive grade. The Bengals gets a negative grade for this trade, and it's the The whole thing with the extension as well. That's where they completely lose it. Just black and white, trading the 10 pick for an elite defensive tackle. That I could see a C plus, maybe a B minus at max, but you got to tag on that 1 year, 28 million. And that's where they lose me completely. I could see it going down to a D plus. That's the floor.
D plus. Wow. You do not like this trade, Andrew.
That 10th overall pick, you could get someone like a Monsieur Delane, possibly a Caleb Downs could fall to that spot. Those are 21, 22-year-old players that have potential, not
I
guaranteed to
hear
be good,
you.
but potential to be really good in this league for a long time at a young, cheap price. And they're already a cheap team not playing Trey Hendrickson. So it just, I don't know. If they traded their second and third round pick for him straight up, I'm like, all right, cool. I could see that value. But the 10 overall, I just can't get on board with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that we tend to overvalue current picks. I mean, I get it. It's just, it's, if you weren't loving the board, I can't fault you for the process. So, like, that's the part I'm confused by here. We're saying you need to follow the board and follow the process. Well, their board's telling them they're not going to get the players they want. Therefore, they're going to have to trade out.
I mean,
So,
you can't tell that until the draft starts, though.
I think within the first 10 picks, you have a pretty good idea who you're going to get. When the Eagles had the 10th pick from the Saints, they had a very good idea that Jalen Carter was going to drop to them. Now, once you get past 10 picks, I would agree with you. I think that that becomes a much more difficult game. But with the 10 picks, I think you can have a pretty, I mean, you already know one of the 10. You already know right now today what one of the 10 are. Like you cannot
Hmm.
say that in picks, 11 through 20, 20 through 30. You can't say that. You have no idea who they're going to pick, but you already know one of the 10 spots and actually two of the 10 because the fact you know you'd pick if you had your board follow. So that's eight picks you have to figure out. Well, we already got the Jeremiah Love rumor coming out about the Cardinals. I mean, you can fill in a little gaps here and there to be able to piece things together. I think you could have a pretty good idea. I don't think the Bengals were completely naive here.
But at the same time, they need so many defensive needs. There's like six or
That's true.
seven players in this top 10 that are really special. They could have accepted any of them. Sonny Styles, David Bailey, Ruben Bay Jr., Caleb Downs, Monsieur Delane. Want me to keep going? All those guys are awesome, and there's a great chance two or three are sitting there at 10. Like, all right, we'll just take whoever falls because people are going to trade up. They're going to take O lineman, Jeremiah
Mhm.
Love. Like you said, Mendoza's going to be gone. That's like three or four guys right there, and there's at least five defensive players, and you'd accept any of them. I don't know.
I
I don't know.
mean,
I go with the elite potential young
uh,
rookie contract, other than a really good player, but he had a down year. Is that just situation? Maybe. Or is he
the
starting to
Giants
maybe lose a
were
step?
still a dumpster fire last year. I mean, really, they were. They had bright spots, but they were still a dumpster fire.
Their D line was elite, but he didn't get any numbers. Now he's get double teams all the time. That's fair. But I don't know. I just that's way too high value. Way too high value for me. I
I
would
hear you.
not trade a top 10 pick where there's really only 10 really good players in this draft. And
I
you can guarantee to get one of them.
Okay, so but I think I'm getting there. We're just coming at this from different angles. I'm not going to fault
Sure.
them on the draft process. You fault them on the draft process. That's fine. I can hear you in that. That's fine. Here's where I fault the Bengals. We talked about the contract, but the other part that you can talk about
Hmm.
where I think you really nail them is there has been no coherent planning for who they're going to keep and who they're going to let go. That has been a real struggle
Hmm.
for them. You know, the
Hmm.
way they've worked things out with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson. It has been this hodgepodge at the end of the rainbow, trying to figure things out, put it together, not very cohesive and planned out. That is a problem. That is not,
Hmm.
that cannot work, will not work, and will not work well. That has to be more thought out and given more strategic thought. That part, I think, is really a big indictment for him because you could play the debate game. Is the age difference between Lawrence and Hendrickson so much to the point it was worth trading a first round pick? That part I can agree with. That's a debatable part. Was it really worth letting
Hmm.
Hendrickson walk and trading for Lawrence and giving up the 10th round pick or 10th overall pick? That part I do understand. So the overall thought process of the Bengals organization. I mean, we've already said it. They're the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC.
Hmm. And the other piece to it is something that not a lot of people are talking about is they already signed defensive lineman Jonathan Allen to a pretty good contract. So now they're paying two D linemen probably $40 million total every year. That that's
Well, they could probably get
expensive.
out of the Jonathan Allen contract next year, and they're only on the hook for like $10 million. That's fine, Andrew. It's not a big deal. As long as you can get out of the contract. Like, so that's what I hear
Well,
from people all the time.
I thank them for signing that because that means we don't have that hook on our side because the offset language, it's all goes to them. Thank you. Appreciate that, Bengals.
I
But
seriously, for the life of me, do not understand that. I hate that argument of, well, they can get out of
mhm,
the contract. Although, don't sign stupid contracts.
mhm.
Like, that's the
And
answer.
if you're signing Jonathan Allen to a decent deal, you show that you somewhat believe in him. Why would you go get one of the top three most expensive D linemen with trading your 10th overall pick? I know you can use two D linemen playing 4-3, sure, but you don't really need that. I don't know. I would if they kept Trey Hendrickson and kept the 10th overall pick, I'd be like, they got something going here because they tried to address the defense a little bit. They picked up a couple guys, like I said, Jonathan Allen. Then the 10th pick, they get a young rookie that could potentially be something in a year or two. But this all stems from they're wanting to show Joe Burrow that we're all in for you. Please don't leave us, Joe. We need you. Look what we're doing. We're going getting the big superstar, the sexy move, sexy Dexy's coming over instead of trying to build in the draft. That's what they're showing.
Let's just go ahead and say that phrase is off limits because that is the weirdest phrase. I heard that today again, and I was like, ooh, that gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
not a kosher lane. That's not kosher language.
Hmm.
That might bump us
Fair
from a
enough.
PG to a PG-13 podcast, Andrew.
Fair enough, fair enough. But this is all that was just showboat for Joe Burrow to kind of convince him to stay.
That's fair.
Which
That's fair.
black and white, it makes them a better team, and it's going to be interesting to see between them and the Ravens. Like you said, the Ravens probably took a little step back because of losing a couple players, and the new coaches usually take a year or two to really get things rolling. That's why I'm not fully on board with the Giants this year, even though we just talked
Mhm.
about they have two picks in the top 10. I know Harbaugh is awesome, but it just takes some time to get
Uh,
things going.
Here's what I'm going to say. If the Giants stick and pick and they take someone with the 10th pick, I am absolutely giving him a worse draft grade. I don't love it. I don't love a straight up pick because that puts so much pressure on that one pick has to work out. It better work out. It better work out, Andrew, because if the Dexter Lawrence is even half good, the Giants will lose the trade. That's a really big pressure situation with a horrible GM front office setup.
I agree with you with that last part that they are a very bad front office, but I don't think it's fair to compare unless it's the same position that 10th overall pick compared to Dexter Lawrence, how they're going to play because I mean, there's no D lineman that's going to be drafted
Well,
at
I mean,
10th, so
look at
it's
the
probably
Micah
going to be like a
Parsons
Caleb
trade.
Downs.
Except Micah Parsons was multiple picks, so that's going to be a little more complicated. But if it was a one pick for Micah Parsons, you better believe that you better get that pick right. Because if you don't, you're going to look dumb. I'm telling you, if it was a different team, if it was the Eagles, if it was the Vikings, I would have more faith that they would be able to handle it
That's
competently.
that's fair.
I understand why people are in love with it. I got this gut feeling that they're gonna botch the move, do something stupid, lose the
Well,
trade.
Harbaugh is more involved now.
I know, the problem is, man, is it it doesn't matter what the other 50% is. If the 50% is an F grade and you take an A plus, it still only goes to a C. Shane is a bad GM. He's proved it over
Hmm.
and over and over again. The Barkley clips are enough of an
Hmm.
indictment, and you never, ever, never, ever, 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 ever get out and get a new coach to pair with the GM unless you have seen the proof in the pudding that the GM can work.
Hmm.
And I guess maybe Shane is saying that, look at what I did with Dart, look what I did with Scatterboo, but I need more proof. I need more proof to have decided to move forward with him. I mean, look at what the Jaguars did last year. Gosh, I'm trying to think of the head coach's name, but he made very clear that he was not going to sign with the Jaguars to be their head coach
Cohen,
unless,
Liam Cohen.
yeah, Cohen, thank you. And the owner was like, no, I'm not going to fire him. And eventually Cohen walked away and forced
Hmm.
his hand to get rid of the GM. That is brilliant coaching. Don't pair yourself with someone that you know is going to cause you to sink your ship.
Hmm.
And I worry about that for Harbaugh. I like Harbaugh. I think there's upside. I just, if it was a different team, Andrew, different team, different situation, I'd be more confident that they would
I
win the
hear a little
championship.
bit NFC East bias in there.
No bias. Nope. Listen, the Giants walloped the Eagles in the first game last year, and that is because of the potential they have on their team. And I know that that's in there and they can utilize that, and I don't question that. But the front office setup, yes, I question. For
Mhm.
example, why did the front office not step in sooner to tell the team that you are going to manage the way that Dart plays differently sooner? Why did they wait?
Mhm.
They could be just as responsible. The Dolphins could have been just as responsible with Tua. Like the front office has power. And they can act like they don't. They can act like they just, let the coach do whatever they want to. That's what you say when you're trying to avoid blame. But the front office has huge sway in the decisions made by a head coach. So I just haven't seen much confidence. And that makes me think they're not up to the task. But we'll see. We'll see if Harbaugh can turn the
Yeah.
ship around.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe in them in a couple years. Definitely not this year. People are saying, "Oh, they're going to be a playoff team." Calm down. Calm down. Let's give them some time to gel. Let's let Harbaugh try to get his style in there, and um, in a couple of years we'll see. We'll see. I don't think next year, but we should move on
Yes.
to some speculation. So that was actually news happening. Now let's talk about some speculation, and I want to talk about a post June 1st move that seems like, according to so what I like about Adam Schefter is he doesn't, I mean, he'll talk about it on the shows, but as far as articles, he rarely posts any speculation. He usually just reports transactions. Some speculation then a little bit, like in this article, it was all what he was hearing, a little bit of speculation in there, but all based on facts. And a lot of times, like he was trying to share in that article, he has a decent batting percentage, decent hitting percentage because last year, no, those year before, whenever he posted about Michael Penix going to the Falcons at 8, everyone's like, "Oh, that's crazy." It happened. It's just strange things that he's hearing sometimes happens, and he is hearing that there's legitimate possibilities that AJ Brown to the Patriots after June 1st. And kind of the way he put it is it's almost a done deal. It's not there yet, but just the way it was reading, it was sounding like, yeah, watch for this to happen after June 1st kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. So black and white, in my opinion, if it happens, depending on the value, of course, but if it happens, the Patriots, I don't want to say they go to a Super Bowl contender right away, even though they just left the Super Bowl. I get that. But there are some issues with the team. The O line, now I know they're looking at possibly drafting an O lineman with 31 pick. They're looking at that Ian Otchor kid. But their O line is an issue. And I just don't think they have enough electric players on that team to be bona fide Super Bowl caliber, even with AJ Brown. Would they be a really good team? Oh, absolutely. They would be. I mean, I would might put them above the Bills in their division. It'd be
Mm,
close. I'd have to see what the Bills do because they just picked up DJ Moore.
right.
I like that move too. It all depends on the draft for both the teams, but they'd be right on that level. I don't think they're on the level on the Bills level right now. Even though they beat the Bills once last year, I think that was more of a the Bills beat themselves kind of a game in that particular game. So I wouldn't put them like, yep, lock it Super Bowl like a lot of people would, but they'd be a really good young team with some star power, with a lot of potential. If the ball falls their way, it could be something. And in the Eagles side, I think that 23 pick, if they lost to AJ Brown, would be a high opportunity to either, like you said, trade down and get a receiver or get a receiver who fell. That makes a lot of sense. Because I know that you guys picked up a ton of receivers in the offseason with trading for Entertainment Wicks and all this stuff, but it's just guys. They're just like wide receiver threes that you're picking up. If you didn't add anyone else, I don't see how this move makes the Eagles better. Even if you get like a first round draft pick or a first and a second next year, this year, Eagles would be worse if that happens outside of drafting a stud rookie receiver that has potential. So that's just the black and white I see of it. I mean, it's not happened yet. Adam Schefter is still speculating, but he's hearing that this could really happen.
So I have a couple of thoughts on this.
Yes.
Um, First one is I'm trying to confirm this, and I think that next year the Patriots have 8 picks, but most of those picks, like 3 are in the sixth round, and the rest are just standard.
Okay.
So my prediction is, if this really does happen, look for the Patriots to be sellers this year throughout the draft, to pad draft picks for next year.
I could see that.
And I think that that plays into their long-term plans because if you look at this year's draft, um, it's honestly not bad. I mean, you've got a first, second, third, two fourths, a fifth, four sixes, and a seventh.
Is that the
Uh,
Patriots?
yeah, that's 11 picks. They've got picks to sell. So they're going to sell at some point, and I think that they're going to primarily look to sell and pick up picks for next year. And this is the reason I say that.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I think the Eagles will trade, and my guess is that they're either going to trade a 2027 second and a 2028 first to get AJ Brown so they can still keep the value that they've been demanding, but it's going to be pushed out so that it's not as
Mm-hmm.
painful for the Patriots. But the Patriots are still going to look to pad for that. They're going to look to add extra picks to soften the blow of giving up that pick. So I think that's the first part of this. This is the other part. I didn't know this, and I just confirmed that Kenyon Sadiq did visit Philadelphia as part of the 30 visits. Doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
anything, doesn't mean it will happen. But when you look at the draft and you look at receivers that could make a difference, and let me tell you, Kenyon Sadiq is not just a tight end, he's a tight end that
Sure.
has wide receiver speed, wide receiver hands. And you're looking to make a difference. You're looking to add to your offense. I think that Kenyon Sadiq could make sense for the Eagles. And I do think it makes sense to potentially look for the Eagles to be trading up to get Kenyon Sadiq. So that's all I'm saying. Look for the Eagles in the draft to potentially. Adam Schefter talked about a potential trade. I know people are thinking veterans, but I think it might be meaning, hey, they're going to trade up and they're going to go get someone that they really think could make a difference for their team.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would make a lot of sense. Um, Kenyon played wide receiver in high school. I watched him play
Mm-hmm.
receiver. He played great. If the Eagles wanted to go to wide receiver, they could make it happen. He has the speed, he has the body, he has the frame. So that's not a question for me. So I'd say watch for that. So first thing I said was watch for the Patriots to make draft trades, looking to
Mm-hmm.
offset for next year. Second thing is I'd say look for the Eagles if the opportunity comes to get Kenyon Sadiq. Um, the third thing I would say is I know we're all like I know that what they're saying is that this is going to happen. This is, or at least that's what it make it sound like. But there's still a long time between now and June. And
Sure.
there's one other part I do want to factor in here that I think is important. Adam Schefter is always getting these sources from somebody. This source did not sound like an Eagle source from my reading of the article. It didn't feel like it was coming from an Eagle slant. It felt like it was coming from an agent slant, an agency slant, or another team. So this is my
Maybe it was Diana Rossini.
I don't think it's Diana Orsini, but I do think it was the Patriots. I do think that it's
Mm-hmm.
not a coincidence that Mike Florio puts out a very negative piece about the New England Patriots. And that same day that that negative
Mm-hmm.
piece is released, this comes out. Now, I'm going to make one last theory, and this might be wrong, but I think this actually doesn't bode well for the Patriots because I think it's going to back them into a corner where they have to take the trade. The Eagles don't have to take the trade. We don't. And that's the part I keep saying to everyone. We don't have to take the trade. The Patriots need Brown more than we need to trade Brown. So the Eagles are going to
Mm-hmm.
get closer to what they want. I don't know if they're going to get what they want, but they're going to get closer to what they want. And maybe this is Robert Kraft's way of saying, you know what? I'm willing to pay a little bit of a higher price to lock into a trade agreement so we can keep this Mike Vrabel story at bay. I realize that is
Hmm.
tinfoil hat lance right there, but I think there's some cookie crumbs we can go off of here. The story was released. There has been a lot of negative press about Rossini. There has been reported stories about the fact that her husband was the one that paid the private investigator to take
Hmm.
the pictures. Who knows if it's true, but once you get enough wildfire to build up, it's like there's smoke over there. There's a ton of smoke. Rossini is suing the Athletic for continuing their investigation. It does not look great. It's not a great look. The Patriots
Yep.
have got to find a way to turn the page. What's the way to turn the page? Oh, AJ Brown. So who knows what exactly has happened, but I think it's possible. The Patriots are going to look to pad to their picks for next year. The Eagles will look
Hmm.
to take someone like Kenyon Sadiq. He's the only one in round one. If they're looking for a round one wide receiver that's reachable, obtainable, it's him. I guess maybe uh if Lemon drops, I try to think who else would drop. That I just don't see the other ones dropping at this point. I think they're going to go higher.
Hmm.
Like they're not trading 10 spots, but would they trade 7 spots? Would they trade 6 spots? I think you're close enough that maybe you start thinking about a trade. It's going to be expensive, but I think you entertain it. You think about it. So we'll see if that
I have a
happens.
thought.
What's
I have a
that?
thought. What if, because Minnesota's at 18, that's 5 spots difference.
Mhm.
What if the Eagles call and say, hey, we'll send you our second, give us your 18, and we'll swappy swap. If Kenyon Steek's there at 18, I can almost guarantee Vikings and Eagles make a trade. Almost guarantee. If Sadiq's there at 18.
We'll see. I mean, I think that the Eagles and Vikings are working on another trade.
Yes, they are. Yes,
So,
they are. Certain pass rusher that parent like a month or two ago there was steam, there was talks, and apparently it's gone quiet right now. And honestly, I love that because Howie is great at what he does, and our interim GM Brzezinski is not getting bowled over that he could be because he's the young guy. He's the new guy. He's the new guy. He's the new guy in the club. Like, who's this guy? Well, let's go push him around. Let's go bully him. And he is not being bullied into value that doesn't make sense. And you know how he probably already offered a fourth round pick. He's like, hey, I'll give you a fourth round pick. That's great value. Versus like, no, that's not great value. If you want to talk, let's talk. And it's going to cost the value of around a second round pick. Now, that could be combination of some picks. Could be like a 3-4 and then a 4 next year kind of a thing. That would make some sense, but it's not going to be any less than the value of a second round pick. Now, if you're saying we'll give you our second straight up, okay, let's talk. But Brzezinski's not going to be bullied, and I love it because they keep saying the things in all press conferences that show that you need to pony up and pay a little bit more. They keep saying, "We love Jonathan Grenard. He's on our team. We want to see what we can do for him." Just like what the Eagles are saying with AJ Brown. He's an Eagle. He's an Eagle. Well, that's because he's being offered for trade right now, and you're wanting more for him.
mhm,
So I just enjoy seeing that Brzezinski, who has potential to be bullied, 100% because he's new with this, brand new, never done it before. He's holding firm. No, just like you said with AJ Brown, we don't need to trade Grenard.
mhm.
We don't need to. So you're going to have to offer us a fair deal, and that's about the value of a second round pick. And you guys get a top 10-ish edge rusher
I don't know,
overall
man.
against the
He's
run
only been to
and against the pass.
One Pro Bowl. Like I think
Last year he had the third highest sacks the year before last. Last year he was injured a little bit, but his pass rush run rate was still top five.
if AJ Brown is not a first and second, Grenard is not a second.
He is a second.
I don't
I
think
could say
so.
A.J. Brown being a first. But I don't see him as a first and second, but Grenard is a second. Edge rushers are probably I would say the third most valued position. Quarterback one, wide receiver two, edge rushers three.
It's fair.
And I think he's 29 now. So he's not young. He's not a young buck, but he's got a few years left, and he is great in the locker room. And right now his contract is cheap. I know he wants a new deal, but you don't have to pay him a new deal. He's under contract for 2 more years. He's only making like 19 million for a top 8 edge rusher. That's cheap. He's making like 16th edge rusher money right now, and he's wanting more money. Which okay, let's talk. But yeah, if you're wanting Grenard, who is probably the best edge rusher on the market right now, you're gonna have to pay some higher value than what you're wanting, Howie. So what do you got? And I love that Brzezinski's doing that because, like I said, he could easily like, yeah, yeah, okay, let's do it. Nope, he's like, no, I am standing firm on this value. If you want Grenard, this is the value. Let's talk. And Howie's like, nope, not doing it. But I think during the draft, something could happen. I don't, and so what Schefter was saying is it could be a draft day trade kind of a thing. I'm thinking not. I'm thinking if the Eagles, if you guys don't get an edge rusher that you really like in the draft, like if the board doesn't quite fall your way and you miss out on a legit edge rusher, then you might call Minnesota, hey, let's talk. Let's talk about next year's draft or something and see what we can do since we didn't get one. I could see that being a thing. I don't see it being a draft day kind of trade. It might, but I think if this goes down, it goes down after the draft if you guys missed out on edge rusher. Now,
I
if
think
you
that
guys
sounds
got
fair.
one, like if you guys picked up like a Malachi Lawrence or something in the second or third round and it just fell to you, well, then you're not calling. Like, yep, trade's off. We're moving on. We're taking this young kid that we love. Right, that makes sense. I think that's part of the reason why talks have kind of silenced. The steam has kind of slowed down because Philly's like, well, let's see what we can do in the draft because we're not able to get him at the value that we want to trade for him. So let's see if we can pick someone up that we like. If we can't, we'll call Brzezinski back and see what's up. But right now, let's just pause it. Let's see what we can do in the draft. I think that's why it's kind of silenced, but it's not done yet. I mean, even if you guys draft someone, you still might say, hey, let's get two edge rushers and really solidify this D line. It's possible.
I don't know. I think with Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt, we need one more. And also, I keep hearing that Brandon Graham's going to come back, but he will be a late addition. So I think
Mm,
they got room for one more. I do think it's one more, but I agree with your assessment. I don't think this is a draft. I think the draft day trade is the Kenya Sadiq angle. It doesn't have to be
mm,
Sadiq, but someone of that quality. That is what I
sure.
think. I think there's moving pieces here, and I think the Patriots and Eagles are both strategically planning this draft to enable the June 1st trade, but they both have to
Hmm.
complete their checklists to make that trade happen. And I don't think that was really reported in the piece, but I do think it's an active part of the negotiations.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. And Adam Schefter did mention that Howie always has like 3 or 4 moves ready draft week, which is very true. He likes to stay busy. He's not someone that just sits on his hands. He's always moving and shaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, man. It will be interesting. I am bummed to see that AJ Brown is most likely on the move, though. This is not.
Hmm.
But here's the thing. I heard this piece. It was called back to a couple years ago. Brandon Graham did an interview with WIP talking about the way he talked about it was number 11 and number one. And he said in the interview, number one is trying, and that number 11 needs to be more willing to take responsibility. That was how he, a team captain, phrased it. And
Mm.
I did miss it. I didn't miss that. I didn't get to hear that part in that full context. But going back and listening to it, I'm just still miffed. I'm miffed by the antagonism that Jalen Hurts faces. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
They say he's not coachable, but there's a clip of him with his former coach, Scott Loeffler, um, and him still being coached by Scott, even though he's no longer with the Eagles. They're working out together. I haven't heard anything negative from him about the new new
Hmm.
offensive coordinator. Um, I just, and this is the last thing I'll say on the Jalen Hurts front. I just think it's important in evaluating this Brown Hurts setup. Sal Palantonio, a reporter in the Philadelphia Eagles area that's well known on ESPN, has said, let's not forget that Jalen Hurts is really one defensive holding call from being a two-time Super
Back to
Bowl.
back. Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
how many people can say that? How many people can really say that? Eli Manning beat
Yeah.
Tom Brady twice, but he did not play like a Super Bowl MVP in both Super Bowls. He did enough to win, but he did not
Mm.
wow. Jalen Hurts wowed in both
Yeah.
Super Bowls.
Yeah, Jalen
Um,
Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes twice in Super Bowls.
I just so I'm just curious, what does this lead to? What happens? I mean, and I think we're also forgetting Saquon Barkley is still an Eagle. He didn't disappear. He didn't leave. I think there's this idea that because he had a down year that he's like suddenly a bad running back now. No, our issue was
Hmm
our offensive line. Our offensive line was our biggest problem. I will always stand by
And then
that.
second was the OC.
Yeah, and you've made changes to both areas. So let's see how it goes.
Hmm
Let's see how it goes. Let's run it
Yep.
back. The offense is not going to be what it was. But here's the other thing. I'll say on the AJ Brown front, this is the last point promise. Is this frees up major cap space for the Eagles moving
hmm
forward. And they
hmm
have big contracts coming for Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. So this might end up being a Tyreek Hill move. You know, I don't haven't heard enough comparisons to that, but I think it's a fair comparison. It might be a Tyreek Hill move where it's not as bad as people are like painting this picture to be. So, let's take a deep breath. Let's see what happens, and
hmm
let's go from there. I, we'll see. I think people are overreacting though. It's not the end of the world. It's going to be tough, but good teams find ways to move on from good players.
Yeah, it's a business at the end of the day.
One last thing I do want to say, and this is AJ Brown related, but I just did read a piece today about Justin Jefferson talking about JJ McCarthy. And let me tell you, I feel like I was right, Andrew, about the JJ McCarthy thing. I feel like that Justin Jefferson jumped off the JJ McCarthy train, and he is low key excited for Murray to be there.
That is not what I read in that same article at all. Justin Jefferson's been practicing this whole offseason with JJ McCarthy, catching passes with only him so far. He hasn't met with Kyler Murray to catch passes yet. He's been training with McCarthy. Justin Jefferson is on the bandwagon of who gets them wins. He doesn't care who it is. He wants to win, and I love that about him. He was hyping up both Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy, and he was saying over and over that he's excited for the competition to bring out the best in the both of them, to see who comes out on the other side and that he gets catch passes from. He was not off the J.J. McCarthy bandwagon. He's on the Minnesota Vikings quarterback bandwagon who's going to get them wins. You might argue, well, that's Kyler Murray. Okay, possibly. But McCarthy apparently has been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and Justin Jefferson's been playing a lot of football with him, catching a lot of passes with him. And he was even kind of smirking, like, and they asked, where were you practicing? He was like, at an undisclosed location. He was kind of smirking about it. He was having fun. So
Hmm.
he's not off the bandwagon. He's on the bandwagon of who's going to get us to win the game. That's what he cares about.
That's fair. I don't know. I think he's rooting for Murray. I think low key. I think he'd want Murray to win.
If Murray has the best chance to get them wins, then yes, he would. But right now, it's hard to say. It all depends on KOC and what he can do with this offense because the system that it was last year, Murray's not going to succeed. If he changes the system, Murray could succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, man. Too soon to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Draft is 2 or 3 days away. It's awesome. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to recap the first, second, third round. And then probably the following week, recap just the draft overall. See how we like it. See how we can compare. See what bad moves people made. But yeah, we're here, man. It's draft week. This is almost like the Christmas for football.
Yes, that's a great way to describe it. Yes, absolutely.
Hmm Yeah. So that's all I had for this, for the latest of the Vikings and Eagles speculation. Did anything else you want to touch on?
Nope, that's it for me. Yeah, this is good.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us in this episode of the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you next time.
We'll see everybody.